Hello, and welcome to another edition of Veterans Speak Out, sponsored by New Hampshire Veterans for Peace, Chapter 62, named after A.J. Muste, the radical pacifist. This is Will Thomas, one of your co hosts.
And I'm Bill McCarthy, former Naval Intelligence Officer. As Will says, 627-735 is my serial number. I live in Manchester. I've been a member of Veterans for Peace for 3 or 4 years now, and it seems like history keeps repeating itself because I guess we're going to talk about a little bit today about the situation in Korea. And it just seems though when I'm on this program, and the name of the program is Veterans for Peace, but there doesn't seem to be very much peace around these days. It seems to be all we're talking about is war.
Exactly. And let's start with the incident that occurred between North Korea and South Korea a week or so ago, and the violence that has occurred. So, Bill, what's your take? Because I know you were stationed, you flew over that area as a spy.
Yes.
And you can talk about the incident of the plane that you might have been on that was shot down and with crew killed.
Yeah, I have two personal experiences having to do with the North Koreans, and they're probably a little bit more reasonable than we're led to believe, because I remember when they did grab the USS Pueblo, and they got a lot of information because the Pueblo had all the key lists, they had all the intelligence reports on that ship, they had much more information than they should have had, and they were able to parlay that and give that to the Russians and so forth. But we were actually, I was on a plane, and we were flying back and forth near Vladivostok, because I was a Russian linguist, and we used to spy on or see what the Russians were up to. We'd stay 50 miles out, in international water and so forth. But one day when we were out there, the radar operator came back and said that, the captain asked me, the pilot, do you have anything up? I said, no, there's no Russian. The Russian's not doing anything today. He said, well, there's a MiG-21, and if you see a picture of a MiG-21, it could easily have taken us right out. But they classified it as a MiG-21 by radar, by speed. And then we got a manual Morse message to return base immediately. And we did. We went down over the Sea of Japan. We got back, and they had grabbed the Pueblo. Then the North Korean plane just came out to check us out to see if we were doing the same routine spying on the Russian, which they assumed that we were. So thank God that we did not get shot down. And then a year later, after I got out of the Navy had written me a nice letter and said if I was happy in Japan, if I wanted to stay there for another year or two in my prison billet, which was flying airplanes and going on submarine trips, that they would be happy if I wanted to stick around for a couple more years. And I declined that offer. And I'm kind of glad I did, because a year later, the same plane that we used to fly, they started flying them off of the North Korean coast closer and closer to see where their radars were, their height finders and so forth, and what weapons they were developing. And they came out and shot one of the planes down. 31 Navy people got killed on that flight. They only recovered 2 bodies and so forth. And so they are pretty effective. I mean, the MiG-21 fighter back in those days was a pretty effective weapon.
Definitely.
They're not as primitive as we're led to believe.
Right.
And I think that the thing that now is really bad is I think that guy, the president of the country, wants to pass this on to his son, and he desperately wants to talk to the United States, because we've never had a peace treaty with the North Koreans at all. And this guy, his country was starving. He's a desperate situation, and I think he really would like to talk to us and cut some kind of a deal.
Well, I agree.
And we just ignore him.
And right now, the headline in today's Boston Globe says U.S. and South Korea reject talks with North. And so what will this lead to? Are we wishing for a wider war, the U.S. and South Korea?
Well, it's kind of like almost harassment, really, and just totally dumping on this guy.
Well, he's not a pleasant fellow.
No,
we know
he's
that.
not. No.
But
it's better to talk to somebody than it is to antagonize them,
Right.
because at the same time, where I'm saying they're not quite as crazy as we think they are, they can be if they get pushed to a certain point. Now, one reason they shut down that EC-121, I think I mentioned to you, Will, right?
Right.
In the 3 months leading up to the shoot down of that Navy plane, right, the United States had flown 190 intelligence missions over North Korea or near North Korea in that 3-month period. Now that could be, kind of harassment in a way.
Definitely.
And there's this little island that nobody knows anything about. We don't know if it's like Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard. Although I asked a Korean friend of mine, he said it's not like that. But they do have a military company there. The South Koreans were firing artillery. They're having a firing artillery drill.
Right.
And the island itself is much, much closer to North Korea than it is to South Korea.
Right. If we analyze the situation objectively, and the North is paranoid, of course.
Yes.
And you've got these ships out there, including some smaller ships, before the carrier George Washington shows up, which is conducting exercises off the coast. And the North Koreans believe the shells are landing awfully close to their border. And it seems to me, I'm not justifying it, but it seems to me there was some provocation on the part of South Korea with U.S. military support. And unfortunately, tragically, 4 South Koreans were killed, as I understand it. And before this escalates out of control, we ought to sit down. I mean, I remember Winston Churchill saying, better to jaw, remember, than war.
Yeah.
And better to talk
Sure
than to shoot.
Yeah.
But we've taken a position right now, apparently, the United States, that we will not talk to North Korea. So Lord knows what's going to happen
They
next.
started that. It's been going on for years, but President
Right.
Bush, right away, he was no sooner elected president than he demonized them as
Part
the
of
evil
the-
empire
yep,
and stuff,
right.
and they were the next ones that we were going to.
Iraq.
And you can only push these
Right.
people so far. They may try to be reasonable,
Right.
but enough is enough, and it's like you're cornering a rat or a dangerous animal in the corner. You don't know what's going to happen. Things
Right.
could get a lot worse.
Well, when he said the evil empire, it was Iraq, Iran, and North Korea.
In North
So
Korea,
we've taken care of one, not us. We opposed it. And, of course, next on their list is Iran, but maybe North Korea. But so we're going to have wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia.
incredible.
It's perpetual war, Bill, I think, as Smedley Butler once said, the famous Smedley Butler, perpetual war for perpetual profits.
Yeah.
I mean, this
basically.
military-industrial complex is real. It exists.
Yeah.
May not be a written conspiracy among all these people, these corporation presidents, etc., but it exists.
Yeah.
Well, all right. And speaking of war in Afghanistan,
Well, Iran's another one that you just mentioned.
right?
That
and-
that might be a lot of people are all for that. A lot of other countries. I guess.
Exactly. And let's talk a minute about WikiLeaks. And I've got my Bradley Manning button on here, the whistleblower, who allegedly downloaded these files and then sent them to this entity called WikiLeaks.
Did you know that the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says that what he did or whoever divulged those WikiLeaks, that he could place people's lives in danger?
Ah, wow.
What do you think about that?
What do I think about that? I think U.S. foreign policy every day not only puts people's lives in jeopardy, it causes death, destruction, and violence
Do you
continuing.
think she realizes that? Do you think she realizes
Well,
that?
I mean, it's pretty hypocritical. I mean, we were just talking earlier about Martin Luther King, his famous Beyond Vietnam speech in Riverside Church in New York City on April 4th, 1967, 1 year before he would be assassinated. And by the way, a civil trial indicated that James Earl Ray was not alone, that he had government help in assassinating Martin Luther King. But that's another show, another program. But look, we're in a situation now where President Obama has said originally, well, okay, I think we can start to leave Afghanistan in the year 2011. Now, after a consultation in Madrid, or Lisbon, Portugal, remember, with NATO members, etc., and Petraeus, it's now suddenly up to 2014. Okay, so what does that mean? It means more profit again for these companies, these mercenaries, who, by the way, are doing a wonderful job of training the Afghan police and military. What just happened yesterday?
Oh, yeah, 6 of our U.S. young American soldiers got shot by one of these trained military
Yeah, police.
people, right?
Yeah, it was a police, and we're doing both, the police and the military. And I could read you a whole list of other Americans who've been killed.
Well, some of these we have just as many private contractors there now, soldiers of fortune.
Right.
We have
right.
just as many of them as we have regular troops.
Yeah.
And some of the things that have been reported about that, even previous to WikiLeaks, right?
Right.
They're not the nicest people in the world. I mean, some of them are pretty.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are terrible people that they get away with it.
Well, they're former military, many of them, and they just kind of like, shoot at will. I mean.
Yeah, and they ship them back to the United States if they get in trouble over there or something, cover it up. And
I say
so
shoot at
forth.
will, not me, but
Yeah.
but look, right now polls indicate only 37% of Americans support the U.S. being in Afghanistan. 37% only. 52% say that the war in Afghanistan, the occupation and war, resembles a Vietnam-like situation, and we know what a disaster that was.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, what do we do, Bill? I mean, the people are on our side.
Yeah, but I don't know how you're going to wake them up. I really don't know
Well,
how you're going to wake them up.
you need to
They
take-
like to watch these reality shows and so forth.
Right.
If you go on the internet, you look at something and 80,000 people respond to something on YouTube, but put something on there about the war in Afghanistan being, not a popular war, or we should get out of there. Nobody cares about that. They're trusting. I think we're too trusting of our government. We trust our government to do the right thing because historically we've all been taught that our government's always done the right thing. Whether that's true or not is another question. But
Well,
we've been taught that, and so
right.
we kind of leave it to the politicians. And as you said, how can you tell when a politician? And I hate to hear that.
Well, how can you tell when politicians are lying? Bill, their lips
their
are
lips are
moving.
moving, yeah.
And I mean, again, we've quoted Mark Twain so many times on this. Loyalty to the country, always. Loyalty to the government when it deserves it. And this government, I'm sad to say this,
It's sad.
does not deserve it.
Well, when you see a picture of the Pentagon itself on television or something, or see it in person, I mean, it's just overwhelming.
Right.
And that's what's running the
Well,
show.
the clue should have been when we changed the name from Department of War to Department of Defense, a.k.a. it's still war.
Oh yeah.
And that's been the
They're
case.
kind of running the show. The generals and the admirals are kind of running the show.
Again, we've talked about this earlier, but we believe John F. Kennedy was killed by elements within the Pentagon and the CIA.
Yeah.
And yes, and read James Douglas's book, JFK and the Unspeakable, why he died and why it matters. And
Well, governments, it seems like throughout the world are getting away with it, and the politicians are running the show, and people don't have much to say about it.
Right.
I just read something recently about Israel and having atomic weapons, which they never admitted to before,
Right.
until the man that I had never heard of, Mordecai Vanu,
Vanu.
he finally came out and divulged that information. But up until then, they never really admitted it or anything. But as I understand it, now they have a couple hundred atomic weapons that they've tried to negotiate at one time to sell some to some other countries and so forth, And but the Israeli people have no say in that. There's no public discussion.
No.
There's no election. There's no rationale. So it's their leaders.
Well,
and
but
a lot
see-
of the things that are happening in Israel,
Yeah.
I don't think are approved by a
well,
lot of these
but the
Israeli people.
Israelis I met in Israel and in the West Bank are good people, human rights people, etc. But they're telling us that the majority of the people in Israel, just like here and elsewhere, are afraid. They're fearful because the government, all these orange-coded alerts, the color-coded thing, the terrorist plots here, they are afraid, and governments keep people afraid, frightened, fearful on purpose, and they keep them basically ignorant. And even if they're a lot are poor, then they have other things to worry about rather than foreign policy, which corrupts the country. I mean, when we talk about national security, and that's one of the headlines that Hillary Clinton and Obama, I guess, say that WikiLeaks jeopardizes our national security. No, what jeopardizes our national security is spending $3 trillion on wars, and even more upcoming if we're going to stay longer, at the expense of not allocating enough money for education, for housing, for job training, for health care. That jeopardizes our national security.
Yeah. And dropping bombs on the wrong houses,
Right,
as I've
right.
mentioned before, too, from these.
Well, I've got to
drones
mention this. What's this action we talked about on December 16th
Yes.
in D.C. And this is an action which will be led by Veterans for Peace, and it will be a massive civil disobedience where some people will chain themselves to the White House gates, and they will demand from the Obama administration a bonus like the 1932 bonus marchers who wanted their money they were promised after World War I for having been involved in World War I, the Great War. And our bonus we're demanding is one word:
Peace.
peace.
That's what you want is peace.
And
you have already arranged for your bail bondsman?
Well, I think so. Carry a
Well,
check
give me a ring if
or
you
cash,
get in
right?
trouble.
And Will Hopkins of New Hampshire Veterans for Peace and
He's a
Peace
Iraq War
Action,
veteran.
and he will be there. A lot. I actually have quotes for some of the veterans who are going to be there, and I mean they're just interesting. And one guy just was with Mike Tork, who was in El Salvador with us as well. Down at the School of the Americas. I met up with Mike again and his daughter. He says, I'm joining my fellow veterans on December 16th because plain and simple, it's the right thing to do. I am against war, murder, and torture. Enough. I have a beautiful daughter and a very cute goddaughter. I owe them my best effort towards achieving a more just world. When we all stand up for peace, war will end. That's Mike Tork from the Smedley Butlers in Massachusetts.
You know what's kind of interesting, though, that all the people who are bringing us all these wars, are keeping us involved in them and so forth, that the people you're mentioning are all people who have participated in the military, just like you and I have.
Right.
But so many of these politicians and leaders who continue to want to keep us in all these wars, like President Clinton and Hillary and so forth, they're not veterans. They don't participate in these wars. Their children will never participate in these wars at all because they're at a certain economic level that they don't have to participate in the wars. Whereas we've said before, we have an economic draft on poorer people in this country, right? Which is very unfair.
Well, and here's one guy from New York I've talked to on the phone, Tarak Kauf, who's a member of Veterans for Peace from New York. He says, war for empire, endless and cruel war, resulting in untold suffering, destruction, and death for millions. A war economy here at home that steals from ordinary citizens, as we just said, and makes the few enormously wealthy. These are powerful reasons for us to put our bodies on the wheels, the levers, the apparatus of this vile war-making machine, the Pentagon, and demand that it stop. Enough is enough. There is no glory, no heroism, no good wars, no justification whatsoever. It is all of it based on lies. I'll be in Washington on December 16th with other veterans resisting this war mentality, demanding its end.
Are they going to have the banner that the president of the Veterans for Peace, the controversial banner, that he laid it right on the line, which many veterans or people that I know from the Navy or Army or whatever understand fully well what that man meant, right?
It was the
"Stop
banner.
the-"
Mr. Obama, stop these blankety-blank wars. War is the real obscenity. Yeah,
Perfect.
and that's true. And the war on terror has made a lot of people rich. And I just went through, as you did, I guess the airports and the body scans and all that, and searches and pat downs.
Yeah,
and
so whether they don't have a holiday for Omar Atta, right?
Exactly.
That guy caused us a lot of trouble.
Well, okay, so we got to talk about WikiLeaks, okay? A little bit more.
So they're going to start investigating people now.
Right.
If
So maybe
anybody's involved.
because I have a button on about Bradley Manning, the alleged, and you're talking about it here. So maybe we'll get on the list. Okay, we could be prosecuted. But they confirm and validate what VFP has been saying for years, that all governments lie to their own people, and some governments lie more than others. And that would be the U.S. And, we're saying prosecute the war criminals. And again, we hate to say it, but the present administration is continuing down the same path as President George W. Warmonger Bush.
Along the WikiLeaks, so if anything, it's doing us a service because people have a right to know this information.
Yeah.
That it should be public knowledge about what people are doing.
And it's not
Kept a
hurting
secret.
people.
And the thing that I mentioned to you before, well, it's so hypocritical because here we got the guys on the right, Rush Limbaugh. I heard him the other day. Now, Rush Limbaugh doesn't like anything about our government. He thinks the government's terrible. Washington stinks. The Democrats stink. Everything's bad about our government. But now, because somebody's divulging some of the true things that our government's done, shone some light on it.
Right.
Rush Limbaugh wants the guy assassinated. He said, why don't they just have like in the old days when men were men, you'd put a bullet through this guy's brain and he'd die from the poison in the head of the
This
bullet.
from a Vietnam draft dodger who had pimples on his butt to get out of going to Vietnam.
Is that how he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's another one.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
another one.
He's,
These paper
they're all
patriots.
Newt Gingrich, all
Paper
these people.
patriots, yeah.
But anyway,
Cheney, all the rest of them.
and Bradley's quote is, I want people to see the truth regardless of who they are, because without information, as you said, you cannot make informed decisions as a public.
Yeah, the guy's a hero, right?
I think he is.
Yeah, I do too.
And he faces at least currently up to 52 years in prison.
But I am absolutely shocked that a guy at his pay level can be in any position to get all
Right.
the information that he got.
Right.
I guess he broke into some.
Well,
A lot of it's diplomatic. A lot of it, what
Right.
he's brought out.
Well,
is
the last
diplomatic.
one, yeah.
And they're very controversial. I mean, they're really upset about the things that they said about other leaders. And if you see what they said about the other leaders, it's perfectly rational.
Right.
It's very logical.
Right. But-
Karzai they're dealing with a little
Right.
bit short on, a
Sure.
little bit nervous type guy.
But don't-
Alpha dog is the Russian guy.
right,
He
right.
is an alpha dog.
yeah, right. But don't you think that the WikiLeaks, the latest, the Cablegate, that indicate that the Arab countries from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and I think most of them want the United States to attack Iran?
Isn't that awful? And I suppose if we listen to that long enough, our leaders are going to go along with the program. Because
Well, if we don't, again,
Israel has so much to say about it.
the WikiLeaks indicate that the Israelis said last year there was between 6 and 18 months of window of opportunity for them. The U.S. didn't do it; they would, and that window of opportunity closes right prior to Christmas.
It's a frightening prospect. I mean, that could blow up the whole Middle East and get everybody involved. And I mean, it's scary to even think about that.
Yeah, and the fact that we have a government that seems to follow what Israel wants. I mean, we talked about this in a previous show about
They have to
vetoing
close.
resolutions, about giving them $3 billion more in jets.
Bribing them. We're bribing them.
Yeah, to come
just
back
stop
to the peace table for what, 3 months, 90 days?
90 days, to stop building new homes
New settlements,
in the West Bank
the West
for
Bank.
90 days,
Yeah,
And also, we would veto any criticism
Right,
by
right.
the United Nations.
Right.
If the rest of the world says Israel is doing something irresponsibly and they vote, we, the United States, because of this deal with Israel, we are going to have to veto that. And we go along with that. Our government, our representatives, who are Democrats, as I am, go along with this. It's just incredible. Yeah.
Makes you
But
wonder.
it's awful scary. It's very, very scary.
By the way, what's on my shirt? I don't know if they
Bring
they
the
can see it.
troops home now.
Bring
right.
the troops home now.
Warrior and veterans together, yeah.
Warriors and veterans together, and that means the people in the military, some of them who have resisted once they discovered that what was going on. I've met, bought his book, Camilo Mejia, who was actually born in Nicaragua, became an American citizen, was sent over to Iraq, participated. He didn't get a lot of specifics. I think he did some bad things, and they were going to send him over on a second tour, and he said, no way. My conscience won't allow me to do that.
Yeah.
And he served 9 or 10 months in prison,
Yeah. Well,
and said he never regretted a single moment. It's almost kind of like Muhammad Ali. I remember when he was drafted, and he said, no way. I'm not going to Vietnam. I'm not going to have the white man send the black man to kill a yellow man over an illegal war.
yeah.
And people asked him, well, they took away your title for 3.5 years. You lost millions and millions of dollars. Do you regret it? He says, I don't regret it, not a single moment. I did the right thing, and I can sleep at night, and my conscience, is clear.
Yeah.
And wow. He's a peacemaker.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, he
This
was,
boxer, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting near the end here, and any last comments about? I mean, we encourage people to look at WikiLeaks, read what's been revealed, what it says about our government and other governments.
They should, in our military, unfortunately, there's so many good, valiant people in the military.
Well.
But at the highest levels, they're just running the show.
Right.
And, you know, I happen to mention one other thing about the way it fixes in. When the North Koreans did capture the USS Pueblo, which was an 80 men in the crew, no way to defend itself, 120, 150-foot long ship, like a rust bucket, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the captain was expected to have defended that ship. And the 4 big-shot Navy admirals sat on a board of inquiry and made that commanding officer of that ship, Pete Booker, look like he was a dishonest and a disloyal American and a chicken, and he was anything but that. And yet 4 Navy, to cover their butt, they get to that higher level, and they get detached from what the real world's all about.
They always do. They always do.
And it was the Secretary of the Navy, Governor Chafee from Rhode Island, I guess, who finally said, enough is enough. These guys have suffered enough. But the military does take advantage of it. Incidentally, I saw that thing that you sent me about the rape of the girl from Missouri,
Yes.
and there's a
Yep.
documentary
Yep.
out.
Yep.
And a lot of criticism about that started in the school system, like, which is your interest, right?
Right.
The recruiter in the school system, because that parents of that girl had enough money to send a kid to college for 4 years. Other children in the family had gone that way.
That's right.
They were very surprised that when she came home from school, more or less brainwashed, because all of her girlfriends were also getting charged and recruited by the Army recruiters.
Yep.
And they were shocked that she went. And unfortunately, she died
Right.
in the most brutal way that you
Right.
can imagine by private contractors that we have over there.
Right. And that's not a single occurrence.
No,
This
but
is
and
multiple.
it's the issue that you work so hard at. You know?
Well, just
in
to,
fact, you got an award for that
I
at the
did.
National Convention, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I saw that. In
Well,
the
it's a small
bulletin.
award, but
Yeah, but so what?
yeah.
It's a national
well,
award.
I accepted on behalf of the local chapter as well for
Yeah, well,
doing.
you deserve it. I think you do a good
Well, that
job
was
at
West
that.
Flyer also. So we're coming down to about a minute left, and did we mention the assassination of the nuclear scientist in Iran?
No, we have not.
Okay,
mentioned
just
that.
quickly. Probably Mossad or the CIA have killed at least 2 and wounded others. And we know they've tried to damage their computers,
Yep.
you know. So that's
They
going
just
on.
randomly, not
Right.
randomly, selectively
Right.
assassinate people.
So we only got a couple seconds left. So I'm going to say on behalf of you, Bill, and myself, goodbye, good luck, so long. Keep waging peace. And on behalf of our chapter, we always say
Just go ahead.
there is no way to peace. Peace
Peace
is the way.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.